Hello, this is Dennis McDonald with A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. You can get us on the web at www.a1-telephone.com. This is a customer's telephone, Bernard from New York. And this is a Radio Shack telephone. And we have some initial checkout videos of this telephone, kind of explaining that there is no transmit for about 10 to 20 seconds, sometimes longer than that. And so everything in the handset's been checked. The modular cord, I believe the customer put a new one on there, and everything has been checked up to the modular port, and we know all that is good. And I mentioned in the other videos that we'd have to go to a board level component and start checking out all these components and seeing, checking them and making sure that they're all good and replacing any bad components. Well, what we found in our troubleshooting was that we traced the transmit all the way back. I'm going to show you here, all the way back to the processor, and over here is where the cord goes in. All the solder connections and everything are good. All the components are good. We checked them all. The bad thing about this is sometimes when there's a delay in an electronic, say that just like this transmit has a delay in it, it's actually working and it will work, but sometimes it's delayed, and it's delayed for a while. The part can actually be bad, and then they're hard to find because they're not bad enough to really show bad, but they're bad enough to affect the electronic circuit. But basically what we did here is we troubleshooted the board, and we went over and found that at the processor, and I'll turn this back over, we have a problem. The processor has been damaged internally. We did some checks on the processor, and it is there's something internally going on in the processor. And so what we basically have to do is we have to treat this like a computer. Everyone that I've ever spoken to about computers, people who don't want to, use a computer or that, and you'll ask them, well, why don't you want to use a computer? And they'll say, well, I'm afraid of it. I don't know how to use it. Well, the problem with a computer is you have to be smarter than the computer. Basically, you got to tell the computer what to do. And so basically, that's what we're going to do here with this chip. We're going to tell this chip and the components that are with this chip, we're going to tell it what we want it to do. And in some cases, you're able to get away with that. And in this case, we were able to bypass the circuit enough to where we could enter it into the chip and get back out what we wanted. And in order to have to do that, we also had to run a line. We have one line here and one line over here from some components at the board level, and it runs up to a hook switch that we installed here. We installed another little switch here, and basically what happens, I don't know if you can see that, it's pretty difficult to see. It's a very small switch, but we had to mount it right here, and it's by the hook switch, so the hook switch gets pressed back and forth here, and this switch gets pressed too. So basically what we're doing with this switch now is we are breaking the transmit line when we have it on speakerphone. So when you use the speakerphone option on this telephone, you don't get any feedback from the voice coil, from the microphone. And if we did not have this, if we did not install this little switch here, basically what would happen is if you use the speakerphone function down here, then what would happen is when this handset would sit in the cradle, there would be feedback from the mic, because this would be an open mic. So we have to use this switch here at the hook switch to disconnect the mic line to the handset so there's no feedback. I hope you're kind of following what I'm saying here. So basically what we did is we made the circuit see the microphone on the handset, but when we did that, it was left open when the speakerphone is on. And so what happens is you'll get some feedback from this handset. Well, that's why we had to also install this switch. And so that switch has been installed. I'll try to get a shot at it. That switch has been installed by the hook switch, and it basically breaks the mic line when the handset is hung up. So it's just a little extra added thing that we had to do to get this telephone to do what we wanted it to do, because you're not going to get any of these chips any longer. You know, unless you had something like this maybe laying around for just parts, you might be able to take the chip out. But basically what's happened here is we don't need to worry about that, because we were able to work around the problem and satisfy everything and make it all work. So sometimes that's what you got to do in electronics. If you're interested in electronics, sometimes you got to do things like that. You got to make things work out the way you want them to work out. I know a lot of good technicians in electronics, but some of them just don't know how to do anything besides try to deal with the exact problem that they're having. Sometimes you have to work around problems. Not everything is cut and dry. You know, you have to work around some problems, and you can be the best technician in the world, but if you don't know how to work around certain problems around your electronics, then you're going to be stuck, and you don't want to get stuck. This is a customer's telephone, and they want to be able to use it. So we were able to get this telephone in working order again for the customer, and it should be okay now. But we're going to put this telephone back together, and we're going to do some final checks. So basically what we'll do is probably one last final video, but I wanted to show you a little bit about what was going on with this telephone after we had done all of our checks. And basically it comes down to we're finding a problem coming out of the processor, and it's slow to react, if it reacts at all, within quite a few minutes. So we've got it squared away now, and everything should be okay, and we're going to put it together and we'll test out the phone. And this is a Radio Shack telephone for a customer of ours, and we hope you enjoyed the video. We're going to do a final video on it here shortly after we get it back together again and show it in working order and check all the functions and make sure everything works. So thank you for watching, and I'm Dennis with A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. You can get us on the web at www.a1-telephone.com, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.